Hey, this is Matt. Once again, we're about to another video, and this is a paid request for Omega Bear. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, random thoughts, streams, commentaries, video game playthrough for an hour, a full playthrough, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal. Do have a Cash App as well. Links are down below in info box. I will get to as soon as I possibly can. For those who sent them, thank you. I do appreciate it. And this is for Omega Bear, who wanted me to talk about a film called The Outrage in 1964. Now, when I got the request, I went, the hell is this film? And then as I looked up some info and started watching the film, I go, oh, okay, I see why. Because one of the requests Omega Bear had me do was for Rashomon, the Akira Kurosawa film, which I'd never seen that film before. But I liked it, because I liked the story, I liked the idea of this one event happens, but then people have different versions of the story. This is a direct remake of that. Like, beat for beat. And this way, I don't know if I would say the story... It didn't feel... Like, there were movies later on that were referencing Rashomon, but I don't know if I saw stuff that was that much of a beat for beat remake. But this one definitely was. Only instead of that, in the Days of the Samurai, here it's more of the cowboys. Because it starts with a preacher man, a prospector, and a con man waiting at the railroad station. It's rain pouring out, stormy out, and the preacher and the prospector, they had seen this trial where it involves this bandit named Juan, this woman, and then this guy who was stabbed. It's the days of cowboys and Native Americans and all that jazz. And I will say that because that film Rashomon was still fresh in my mind, in a way that kind of hurt this for me, because it really did feel, understandably, a big sense of deja vu. Like, if you've seen that film, you have seen this movie story-wise. But of course, the idea is that, number one, do you prefer to watch a film that's in English or foreign with subtitles? Do you prefer to watch a film with more American actors in it, and of course the different setting and such? It was interesting to see, like, the same story told in a different venue. So it was interesting to an extent, so I didn't mind the film. It's just, because it was so familiar, because obviously I'm like, okay, that's going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and that's what it is. There was no surprise. There was no, oh, it was like, okay, that beat's going to happen? Yep, it does. And they don't have this beat? Okay, are they going to have, oh, they don't have that too. It was kind of that watching a rerun feeling, so it didn't have as strong of an impact. I don't know if that makes sense. But if you never saw Rashomon, or if foreign films or such aren't your cup of tea, or maybe this is the film to watch first. That's up to you. The cast is interesting. I will say that's the interesting thing to me, because the three I mentioned, the preacher, the prospector, and the con man, the preacher is William Shatner. I went, oh shit, how he is as a person, I don't know. As an actor, despite how dramatic and grandiose his acted to be, I liked it. Just like I like David Caruso and CSI Miami and other stuff. I like the way he acts, because it's Shatner's type of acting. It's unique to him. It may be over dramatic, or it may be, a bit too theatrical, but I'm entertained by it. Whether it be in Star Trek, the show, the movies, National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1, where he's the villain, Land of the Free, where he went up against Jeff Speakman. Acting-wise, I always like William Shatner. Always nice to see him in it. So very young too, because again, this is 1964, so very cool to see an early role, and he still has that Shatner vibe. And the con man is Edward G. Robinson, which for those who don't know, this is a guy that was in a ton of gangster movies back in the day, and a very unique way of speaking. And he did good as the con man. I mean, all three of them did fine. The prospector, I thought, was the weakest of the three. He's there, but I mean, it's hard for me. It's hard to beat William Shatner, and then Edward G. Robinson, just an old pro. So much like Rashomon, the idea is that the preacher man and the prospector, they've been frazzled by what they saw at the trial. The con man enters the conversation. Again, they're waiting for during the rain and the storm, just like there was a rain and a storm in Rashomon. And William Shatner and the prospector, they talk about the trial and this event that happened that led to a death. So the one guy found the dead body, just like in the original, and then we get the bandit story and his point of view, again, very similar to Rashomon, where it made him look like this badass bandit, and he was smart, and he outmaneuvered this person, and had his way with the woman, and had a duel with the other guy, and was able to win and be victorious, and kind of made himself look good in his story. Then you have the woman's point of view, where it's very sympathetic to her, where the husband shunned her and thought she was dirty and she was used up because the bandit forced himself upon her. So she was so distraught and so out of it that she may or may not have stabbed the person himself and stabbed her own husband because of how he threw away like she was nothing. So again, to make herself look like the victim. Then there was the dead person's point of view, where Rashomon and that used some individual. Here is a Native American, a shaman, to talk to the dead. And it's pretty much how, the wife wanted to be with the bandit, and he felt so like disgusted and affronted, and with his honor he ended his own life. And then the prospector, or the guy that was in the original, they tell their story, which more than likely we view as the audience as this is what really happened, where none of them look good, where the bandit was not as cool as he said he was. He was actually begging for the wife to please marry me, please come with me. The husband was not as good as he viewed himself as, because he shunned the woman and then said, "You're just a slut." That was literally a line. "You're a slut. You're poor white trash." And then she's mad at both of them and eggs them on like, "You're just a wimp, and you were tied up while he did all these things to your wife, and you're supposed to be this big ass badass bandit, but what are you gonna do now, huh? You're begging for me to marry you." And how they're all liars, and then they make themselves look to be either cooler, the bandit, or more noble, the aristocrat, or more innocent, the woman, when all of them were lying and full of shit. The story was in Rashomon, it's the same story here. I would say because of whether the translation with the subtitles, sometimes the vibe was a bit easier to understand in this version. Like the guy turning on his wife and calling her a slut and stuff. The wife being mad at both of them and how she's egging them on. I thought that worked a bit better here compared to the original. Again, maybe just because the language barrier isn't as much of a barrier here. So I thought that was a bit easier to get the gist of. I haven't mentioned him yet, But the most interesting bit of casting is the bandit, which is Paul Newman, as I guess you would call a Mexican. So it's weird to see Paul Newman of, well, he doesn't say Holmes, but it's like, speaking Spanish. Like Spanish, Mexican accent, and utilizing that language. And I swear to God, like, I would look at him, and if you did not tell me it was Paul Newman, I would not have known. Just, I'm looking at this guy, and I know it said it stars Paul Newman, but I'm listening to his voice, I'm watching, but is that Paul Newman? Holy shit, that's Paul Newman. Now, of course, that wouldn't fly today, yeah. Wouldn't fly today, and today. It'd be today, no. It wouldn't fly today, because, a white guy is portraying a Mexican guy, and a bandit. People will lose their mind and lose their shit over that. But yeah, back then, yeah, Paul Newman's going to play the character, and did a very different type of performance for Paul Newman. Because not only is he Mexican, but he's a villain, and basically a rapist as well, because that's what he does, assaults the lady. Although you say that she begins to enjoy it, but still, he did an awful thing. And I'm just like, wow. It's still crazy that that's Paul Newman. I can't do a Mexican. I can't do an accent. Say, I don't want to play the fancy games. And man, it took me aback a bit. It took me a bit to get used to, just to come to terms like, that's fucking Paul Newman. So, like I said, interesting cast. That Paul Newman and then William Shatner in the film. Obviously, because they're different places of time, they don't share the screen. But yeah, Paul Newman, good actor, never minded him as an actor. He's not a guy that I grew up with, and he's not a guy I gravitated towards. I gotta go see the new Paul Newman movie, because he was before my time. By the time I'm getting to know movies, it's like 1990 and 1991. So yeah, he still worked from time to time, but his films were before my time. And the type of films he made were not the films. I was going more towards Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, or later on, Shawshank Redemption, horror films, that type of stuff. So, but Paul Newman is a good actor. Rest in peace to him. And I thought that the way, like, again, the way when you see, like, the true story, which is what the prospector tells, things were able to understand a bit more of their motivations, where, again, the aristocrat pretty much just tells her how she's a slut, and you flirted with the gardener, and you like to laugh and flirt with anybody and everybody, so that seems like the type of person she is. And then she goes, well, you're a damn slob, and you're both are cowards, and like the original, you see how it wasn't this grand duel and finesse. It was very, very messy fight. Because that's how more likely it would be in real life. So they hear a noise, they're shooting in the air at birds, and at one point they're backing up and they don't realize, and they turn, and they don't fire at each other, and that's why they're just rustling about. And then this I thought was interesting that they added in. This was a different thing. Heavy spoilers. In the original, you could tell that the bandit didn't really want to do this duel. And I would say in that one, you got more of the sense of they really didn't want to do the duel. While here is like, I guess we're going to do this. And in the original, the bandit was definitely much more manic and crazed and lost his mind. And I think the idea is that because the way the wife of this guy was and how crazy, it definitely made them seem more crazy. Like the lady was really losing her mind, and then that's kind of infected the bandit, and he really lost his mind, and especially after he had to stab the guy. Here, you don't really get as much of that lunacy. Instead, the guy trips, the aristocrat trips and falls on his own knife. And I thought that was an interesting change. Because in a weird way, that kind of made me make more sense in my head as to why the dead guy lied beyond the grave. I mean, I understood it in the original as well, but in this, he didn't want to admit to the world that he accidentally fucking killed himself. He even goes, I tripped. So he accidentally tripped and fell on his knife. Because he had the knife, and he tripped over, he fell this way, and it landed in him. So like the bandit didn't want to admit that he was a guy who wasn't as tough as he thought he was, that this legend about him wasn't as prominent in reality than he wants it to be, and that he won this just because the guy tripped over. And I don't know, something about that I thought made it work a bit more for me in this one compared to the original. That's one aspect I thought I liked a bit more. It just, lo and behold, it's something that they did that was a bit different, that I didn't see coming. I thought it was just going to be like the original, that part. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fascinating they did that way. Not everyone may not like that change, but I thought that was kind of an interesting bit. And just like the original, the three people were back to them. They hear the baby. Someone dumped the baby. The William Shatner's trying to calm it. Edward G. Robinson calls bullshit on the prospector. Like, you're a liar like everybody else, like all of us. Like, what about that dagger? That's why you didn't want to tell the sheriff. And then the guy's like, yes, I did. And later admits that he sold it for his kids. Because his kids needed feeding. And also a little bit with Shatner is that he's a preacher that's lost his faith. And then he kind of sees how this guy is. And then he's going to take the baby in. And he's like, oh, what's more, one more mouth to feed. I do like this moment. I like this moment. Maybe because the way Shatner played it. I liked it more than in the original. Where the guy's like, are you sure you want, you'll allow me to do this, preacher? You know what the guy said about me. Yeah, you're a liar and you're a thief and this and that. Like the rest of us. Maybe that's the truth. Meaning, nobody's perfect. No one has this perfect image. We're all flawed individuals. What matters is when the backs are to the wall, what are we capable of as a human being? So, for example, this guy, yes, he did steal, but he stole for his family. Stealing to save your family or to feed your family that's starving is different than stealing because for the giggles or whatever the case may be. There's a bit of a difference. And that kind of regains Shatner's faith, and he walks off with the prospector. And I would say, like, the preacher guy here I like more. Not just because of William Shatner, but I really got more of the gist of him regaining his faith because of this. I just got more of the gist of it in this. So again, I would say like the ending of the film, because I thought, okay, the baby seemed like it came out of nowhere. I knew that was coming, so I wasn't as caught off guard. But also, yeah, I like seeing William Shatner. And again, the guy who played the prospector was okay. I still thought he was the weakest of the three. And then the movie ends. So it's shot in black and white, just like Rashomon's in black and white. It doesn't have as much style as Akira Kurosawa, to be fair. So I would say that one's a bit more better directed. This one, I thought the cast was more interesting just because the people I'm more familiar with. Paul Newman as a Mexican, William Shatner, Edward G. Robinson. So I would say at the end of the day, it was at least interesting to watch. I mean, as to which is better, I don't know. Again, part of me wonders if I had seen this film first and then saw Rashomon, if my mind would be in a different mindset. I don't know. Like I said, it's not the movie's fault. It's just, well, you just say it is, but I mean, they really stuck with what the original Rashomon was, almost beat for beat. So I think that's why when the guy tripped and fell on his knife, I'm like, wow, that stuck out to me. And the point of repeating it over and over again is because, wow, that was something different from that. But at this point, there's probably a lot of people that didn't even get to see Rashomon. And so we'll make one for our audience, and it'll be our version of it. But yeah, this is a film I had never even heard of before, so I don't even know if it even has any kind of reputation, because like I said, I had never heard of this film before, but glad to at least watch it one time, because again, at the very least, it was interesting. So I'll give it that. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. Thanks once again to Omega Bear, and we will see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.